This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Hi, this is Dr. Stephanie Wattier, and I'm the host of Conversations with a Chiropractor. This is not a health how-to, but rather a conversation with some amazing people I've had the pleasure of being with on my journey of life. Think of it more like Tuesdays with Maury, a fireside chat, or chicken soup for the soul. Grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy this conversation with a chiropractor. Hey there. This is Dr. Stephanie Wattier. I am host of Conversations with a Chiropractor. Today, you are only getting me, no guest. It is the month of October, and it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I am not an oncologist, but I do want to talk about the lymphatic system and how that relates to the breasts. I also want to talk to you a little bit about your relationship with your breasts. You know, our self-confidence, our self-esteem, our relationship with our bodies is so connected to our relationship with our breasts or what our breasts are. Are they too small? Are they too big? Perceived by culture. I love some of these visuals like 13 going on 30 where Jenna is so disappointed and she's stuffing her bra on her 13th birthday and some of her friends have already developed and why hasn't she? You know, there's the classic 1970 book, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, by Judy Blume, that was made into a hit movie in 2023. So many young women are struggling and grappling with their self-esteem based on when their breasts grow and how big they grow. You know, there are those young women who, unfortunately for them, have had way too much focus and attention on their chest size because they've developed earlier than their peers. And that brings a whole slew of discussion that I'm not even going to touch right now. I mean, I could open many, many doors of women being over-sexualized and abuse, and I could go to many, many places, but I'm not going to. That's not where we're headed today. Today, we're going to keep things sort of lighthearted, and we're going to talk a little bit about lymphatic system in your breasts. So, just to talk a little bit about this whole self-confidence issue, I was so surprised to see that breast augmentation surgery is the second most common plastic surgery in the United States. 1 in 7 women are choosing this for themselves, and I think that's wonderful. I think this sort of goes to show that breasts and our relationship with them is so tied into our self-esteem and our self-confidence. I'm not judging people who have chosen any surgery. I think that we all have to make the best decision for ourselves based on our health, our mind, body, spirit, soul. I do want to point out how much self-hatred and self-criticism is wrapped around our breast size. I mean, if we are seeing that 1 in 7 women are choosing breast augmentation surgery, then we obviously know that this is a very common theme for women, for our self-confidence. So if we look at a woman's life, whether she developed young or developed them right at the right time, whether she's happy with her breasts or not, you know, we sort of maybe go from that to then accepting our breast size. And then some of us have had children, and perhaps we have breastfed, and then we have what is left of our breasts post breastfeeding, which is like saggy breasts when our skin changes. And it's just really interesting because I don't know where in a woman's life we are content and happy in giving our breasts a lot of love, right? We want to look beautiful, and then we're thinking about the Victoria's Secret bras and how those girls can be raised up and how our cleavage can look. And then all of a sudden we're talking about early detection, and are we doing our self-breast exams, and have we been looking for lumps and bumps, and do we have fibrocystic breasts, and is our breast tissue dense? So it's just like this really interesting thing to me that never does it seem have we publicly been told to really give our breasts love. Christiane Northrup probably has in her book, but it's just really interesting to think that we go from sort of judging and criticizing, perhaps self-acceptance. We do know that our breasts have a lot of really useful pieces and parts to them, and nourishing our children is one significant and huge piece of that. But what about breast care? What about regular breast care? I was on a women's chiropractic Facebook site, and a lot of these women were talking about breast cancer and lumps and nodules and treatment. And there was a woman who said, I fluff my breasts. PHLUFF, fluff. And I was like, never in my 50 years of being on this earth, 52 years, have I heard this phrase. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I first want to talk to you a little bit about the lymphatic system, because this is going to tie into breast fluffing. So I am going to get a little bit nerdy right now and talk to you about what the lymphatic system is. It is so important for both our immune and circulatory system. It is comprised of vessels, nodes, organs, and tissues that are transporting lymph, which is a clear fluid that contains immune cells, protein, waste throughout the body. We probably are the most aware of our lymph nodes when we are fighting a cold or fighting some sort of illness, because we can physically feel that the lymph nodes in our necks are swollen because they're doing their job. A lymphatic vessel is a thin-walled capillary and larger ducts similar to veins that collect that interstitial fluid from tissues and return it to the bloodstream via the thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct we're talking about. Lymph nodes, there are 600 of them in our body, are these little small bean-shaped hubs that are filtering the lymph, and they house different lymphocytes like B cells and T cells, which identify and neutralize pathogens. So very important. We do have different lymph organs in our body, starting with the thymus, which is the site of T cell maturing, our spleen, which if you've been in an accident, you probably know how important the spleen is. It's filtering blood, it recycles red blood cells, and it's helping to sort of begin the immune response. Tonsils and adenoids are guarding against pathogens that come in our mouth. Bone marrow is producing lymphocytes and other immune cells. So our lymphatic system is so connected to our immune system and our circulatory system. And I want to talk a little bit about where the two sites in our body where most lymph nodes are connected or converging. Our axillary, or our armpits, is one huge area with so many lymph nodes, and then our groin. I think about some of my sweet 70, 80, 90-year-old patients that come into me with frozen shoulder, and I think about how the one movement that we don't do often is lifting our hands up above our bodies. Like we oftentimes put our hands in front of us if we're cleaning, if we're sweeping, if we're writing letters, if we're on our computer. Our arms and our hands are at our sides, but rarely are they way above our head. For those of you who are at the gym, this is a different story. But I'm talking about the people that are living sort of normal, like pseudo-sedentary lives. Our arms, our armpits are just sort of there. What are the best ways that you can increase the health of your lymph system? Physical activity is definitively number one. exercise increases lymph flow up to 10 to 30 times because of muscle contraction and increased cellular respiration. That is from the Journal of Physiology and the Advances in Physiology Education in 2018. So regular aerobic activity, like even walking with your arms swinging, cycling, swimming, strength training, are wonderful to help lymph transport and immune function. The second thing that's wonderful for your lymph system is hydration or drinking water. None of us drinks enough water. So because lymphatic drainage or our lymph is composed primarily of water, dehydration can thicken the lymph and slow its flow. So continue to drink lots and lots of water. The third thing to do is to breathe and watch our posture. So the thoracic duct, one of the main lymphatic vessels, relies heavily on pressure changes from the deep diaphragmatic breathing to move lymph upward. Incorporating slow, deep breathing exercises or yoga is going to help stimulate lymphatic circulation. Manual lymphatic drainage is where the breast fluffing comes in. So although the science has basically been circling more around people that have lymphedema, like post-cancer, post-trauma, or infection, manual lymphatic drainage involves gentle rhythmic massage following lymphatic flow patterns. So they say that, of course, this should be done by a certified lymphatic therapist, but I want to say that you can very lovingly and gently fluff your breasts any time of the day. There is a wonderful website by Nancy Paglia that talks all about this if you want to see something visually, if my descriptions on this podcast aren't sufficient. So breast fluffing, PHLUFFING, stands for Personal Hand Lymphatic Undulation Flow Facilitation. It was actually created by Cheryl Chapman, a former cardiac oncology and hospice nurse, and a breast care advocate dedicated to empowering and educating women about self-breast care. Cheryl is also the author of the Happy Breast book. So basically what this entails is doing a little bit of patting with your opposite arm. So right hand goes under left armpit, does a little bit of tapping to stimulate that lymphatic system. And then we're doing gentle circular and upward towards the axillary, towards the armpit. Very, very, very light circular motions. So this is nothing deep. This is nothing too crazy and scientific where you have to start somewhere and finish somewhere. But remember all of those other things that are going to help your lymphatic system, like exercise, hydration, and breast fluffing. I hope that none of you takes this lighthearted podcast as ignoring the realities of breast cancer. I just want you all to know that I am not an expert in cancer. I am not an oncologist. I have had several sweet, amazing friends pass away from breast cancer. And what I would love is for every single woman on this earth to love herself and take better care of herself so that she's walking on this earth as long as God wants her to. Cheers to breast fluffing. Thank you for listening. Long live the tatas.
Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, would you please rate it, review it, like, or subscribe? You can find me on social media at watchyourwellness.com, Dr. Stephanie Wattier on Instagram, or Watch Your Wellness Chiropractic and Massage on Facebook. And I'm so curious where your next conversation will take you.
Since 2011, American Giant has been making everyday clothing with extraordinary effort. Not in far-off factories, but right here in the USA. We obsess over fabrics, fit, and details, because if you're going to wear it every day, it should feel great and last for years. From the cut of a hoodie to the finishing of a seam, nothing is overlooked. Our supply chain is tight-knit and local, which means less crisscrossing the country and more care in every step. The result is durable clothing, t-shirts, hoodies, sweatpants, and denim that become part of your life season after season. This isn't fast fashion, it's clothing made with purpose by people who care as much about how it's made as how it fits. Get 20% off your first order with code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with code STAPLE20.